You're welcome once again to my channel, King Charles, where you acquire new knowledge every day. We are continuing from the concept of equilibrium after discussing static and dynamic equilibrium. So today we're continuing from here. We're going to discuss partial equilibrium analysis. Please continue to share this video if you find them interesting. If you learn anything new from them, share them and subscribe as well. Thank you. So we've been able to define the concept of equilibrium, talked about static equilibrium and dynamic equilibrium. Now we want to talk about the two major way of analyzing equilibrium in economics. The two ways are partial equilibrium analysis and general equilibrium analysis. Remember in the previous session, the previous class, I told you that this analysis, by the end of the class, you should learn the assumptions of this analysis, the advantages and the limitations. Now, partial equilibrium analysis is an equilibrium approach that is credited to an English economist called Alfred Marshall. In other words, he is the pioneer of the partial equilibrium analysis. If you like, you say the author. So the brain behind partial equilibrium analysis is Alfred Marshall. You already have been familiar with Alfred Marshall's contribution to economic analysis generally. So partial equilibrium analysis is the analysis of an equilibrium position for a sector of the economy or for one or several partial groups of the economic unit corresponding to a particular set of data. In carrying out partial equilibrium analysis, you are considering one particular sector or one particular variable or a group of variable or a group of economic units using available data on that group or that variable. Now, by implication, you are leaving out other sectors. You are not considering other sectors and you are not considering other variables. Partial equilibrium analysis is another way of referring to microeconomic analysis in general. Because when you are carrying out this analysis, you want to establish the equilibrium position of a particular variable. You leave other variables out of it. You want to establish the position of a particular sector. Are they at equilibrium or not? Is the sector at equilibrium or not? Or the group of sectors, are they at equilibrium or not? When you are trying to do this, you are carrying out partial equilibrium analysis. In some text, you will see partial equilibrium being referred to as particular equilibrium analysis. And like I said, it is another way of referring to microeconomic analysis in general. Why? Because we have established in the conceptual introduction of the class, or in the introduction of microeconomics, that microeconomics analyzes part of the whole while holding others constant. Microeconomics only concentrate on some selected variables or a section of the economy and hold the rest constant. So, in carrying out partial equilibrium analysis, what you are doing is you are trying to study the equilibrium position of an individual, a firm, an industry, or a group of industry in isolation, studied in isolation. You want to, in isolation of other industries, other firms, other individuals, studying a particular household in isolation without bringing in the effect of other household and so on. So this method, which is the partial equilibrium analysis, considers the changes in one or two variables, keeping others constant, keeping all other variables constant. Therefore, the notion that says ceteris paribus becomes relevant. Ceteris paribus becomes relevant. In other words, all things being equal, you hold the rest constant and allow only one variable to change or to fluctuate. Remember, it is on this basis that microeconomics was criticized. Don't forget that the assumption of ceteris paribus is not realistic. There are positions for which an individual is at equilibrium. There are positions at which a firm is at equilibrium and an industry is at equilibrium. When you are carrying out partial equilibrium analysis, you discuss this in isolation. The first equilibrium position is that of a household, individual, or consumer, you and I. That is the first one. A, consumer's equilibrium. When you apply partial equilibrium analysis, consumer's equilibrium is achieved when the consumer is getting maximum aggregate satisfaction from a given expenditure and in a given set of conditions relating to price and supply of the commodity. In other words, when the marginal utility of each good is equal to its price. The conditions are as follows. 1, when the marginal utility of each good is equal to its price. And 2, when the consumer must spend his entire income, why? On the purchase of goods. Now, in this discussion, in this analysis, it is assumed that the consumer's taste, preference, money income, and the price of the goods you want to buy are given and constant. That is where the only time when the marginal utility of each good can be equal to its price. This marginal utility is expressed, for instance, where different goods are involved, where variety of goods are involved. You can have commodity A, commodity B, commodity C. The marginal utility of each commodity can be written as MU, which is marginal utility, MU subscript A. The marginal utility of commodity B can be written as MU subscript B. The marginal utility of commodity C can be written as MU subscript C. And the marginal utility of, continue like that, to the last product can be written as MU subscript N. Now, remember that it must be equal to its price. So, you have P for price is represented as P. And the price of commodity A is represented as PA. And the price of commodity B is represented as BB. The price of commodity C is represented as PC. And the price of the end commodity is represented as PN. The end commodity is represented as PN. Now, what it means is that MUA must be equal to PA for you to say consumer is at equilibrium. MUA must be equal to PA for consumer to be at equilibrium. MUB must be equal to PB for consumer to be at equilibrium when consuming commodity B, and so on and so forth. The MUN must equal to PN. So the overall consumer equilibrium is established as MUA all over PA equal to MUB all over PB equal to MUC all over PC equal to the end product MUN all over PN. What it means here is that for the variety of goods or the different commodities that were consumed by the consumer, there's the equilibrium position is established when the marginal utility of each of these goods, A, B, C, D, E, N, is equal to the price of each of these goods, A, B, C, D, E, N. You understand? So this is what it means. This is exactly what it means. Then the second condition, this is the first condition of consumer equilibrium. The marginal utility of each good is equal to its price. The second condition is the consumer must spend his entire income, represented as Y, on the purchase of goods. On the purchase of what? Goods. And this is mathematically represented as Y, which is the income, equal to price of commodity A multiplied by quantity A plus price of commodity B multiplied by quantity B plus price of commodity C multiplied by quantity C, and so on and so forth to commodity N. Price of commodity N multiplied by quantity of commodity N. What are we establishing here? We are saying that if, for instance, you have 1,000 naira, for you to be at equilibrium, the entire 1,000 naira must have been distributed across the different commodities that you consume. For instance, commodity A can be egg, commodity B can be bread, commodity C can be Milo, and so on. So let's stop it at commodity C so that we don't go, because when you say commodity N, it means 1,000 other commodities before the last one. So let's say we stop at these 3 commodities. Now your money is 1,000 and you buy maybe 3 egg. Now 3 egg could be 100 naira. 3 egg is not 100 naira. Egg is not 100 naira each. So if you buy 3 egg is 100 naira. If you buy 3 egg, it means that PA, which is egg, is equal to 100 naira. Then the quantity you bought is equal to 3. QA equal to 3. PA equal to 100 naira. B, commodity B, is bread. And I said the price of bread, let's say it's 400 naira. So PB equal to 400 naira. Quantity demanded of bread equal to 1. So that is, you put that down. Then commodity C, it's a Milo, and the price of Milo, it's 100 naira. So PC equal to 100, and you end up buying 3 Milo. That is QC equal to 3. So what we are saying is that your income Y is equal to, you do the mathematics, price of egg times the number of egg you buy will give you 300 naira. That's 3 times 100. Plus price of bread, which is 400, multiplied by the quantity of bread you bought, which is 1, will be 400 times 1, that is 400. Plus price of Milo, which is 100, multiplied by the quantity you bought, which is 3, that's 300. So when you sum all of this together, 300 plus 400 plus 300, you have your total income, which is 1,000 naira. When this happens, and MU, the marginal utility you get from consuming bread, consuming egg, consuming bread, consuming Milo, equal to their prices respectively, then the consumer is said to be at equilibrium. But there was a clause. The clause is that it is assumed that this consumer's taste, preference, money income, and the price of goods you want to buy are given and constant. They are not changing. They are not what? Changing. You keep them constant so that you'll be able to carry out a perfect analysis. That is what it implies. Then we have a producer. A producer can also have an equilibrium position. A producer's equilibrium position is established when he is able to maximize his aggregate net profit in the economic condition in which he is working. Now, the producer equilibrium and the firm's equilibrium are one and the same, because at the point of equilibrium, the firm or the producer is making profit while utilizing the available resources at its disposal. Industry equilibrium. Now, when is an industry at equilibrium? An industry is at equilibrium when there is no incentive for new industries or new firms to enter or leave the industry. An industry is at equilibrium when there is no motivation, no incentive for any new firm to enter into the industry, and there is no the motivation for existing firm to leave the industry. When there is no incentive or motivation that can attract new firms to enter into the industry, and there is any form of demotivation or discouraging factor to make existing firm to exit the industry. So this will happen when the marginal firm in the industry is making only normal profits. There's what we call normal profit. There is also what we call abnormal profit. You will get to know all of that later. So there is normal profit. So when all the firms in the industry, the marginal firm, in other words, like aggregate, in aggregate, the firms are making normal profit, then this equilibrium can be reached. We have established the various points of equilibrium of the consumer, the firm, and the industry. What are those factors, or how are this equilibrium reached? Now, we go to the assumptions. Partial equilibrium analysis cannot hold without these assumptions. One, the price of the commodity is given and constant for the consumer, which means it doesn't change. Consumer taste and preference, habit and income are also considered to be constant. In other words, you like tea, egg, and bread yesterday, you like tea, egg, and bread today. Your income is 1,000 yesterday, your income is 1,000 today. Now you can see when critics criticize microeconomics, where they are coming from. Your income cannot remain the same. Yesterday you like egg, tea, and bread. Today you are likely going to like pap and akara. Then the prices of resources or other related commodities are known and constant. This is another assumption, because if the prices of other related commodity, both substitute or complementary, if they are not constant, it means they can affect your choice and destabilize the equilibrium position. Another assumption is that the factors of production which the industry needs are known and constant. In other words, the industry is easily availed with factors of production at a known and constant price, which is in line with the method of production. The next assumption is that price of the commodity that the factor of production helps in producing and the price and quantity of other factors are also known and constant. And there is perfect mobility of factors of production between occupation and places. You can use the same factor of production that you use in producing bread to start producing tea. You can use them in different production process. Now we go straight to merits and limitations of partial equilibrium analysis. Merit and limitations of partial equilibrium analysis. Of course, any of these analyses have their uses, so we have to bring them out at least to help in a clear understanding. One of these merits is that partial equilibrium analysis helps us in analyzing the causes of change in price of a product or service. It helps us in analyzing the cause of change in the price of a commodity or a service. So, when you carry out this analysis, you can now really identify which of these various factors that actually affect the price of a commodity. Then the next advantage is that it helps in predicting the consequences of changes in the behavior and plans of the market participant. You can predict. You can, practically look at the circumstances, the factors, and how they are playing out, and then make a perfect prediction of what the next outcome or behavior or position of the market participant will be. You can tell when whether or not the next behavior of the supplier is to cut down supply or to increase supply, or whether the consumers are likely going to stop or are likely going to reduce their demand. It's also a dependable tool for solving practical problems since it narrows the scope of the economic analysis. This is another use. It's reliable because you can practically solve one or two things because you don't have to gather plenty information. You can just narrow it down and use that information to help. Then it helps in the understanding of the general working of the economic system, which actually involve interdependence of economic variables. Because you cannot quickly just consider just one particular sector without having to think of how the other sector affects it. Then, in carrying out partial equilibrium analysis, you can now establish the relationship between two sectors or more sectors, how the agricultural sector affects the industrial sector, and so on. We have the limitations. Limitations of partial equilibrium analysis are as follows. It is confined to just one particular field, say an individual or a firm. It doesn't usually analyze beyond one particular economic unit. Number two, it fails to explain the consequence of an economic disturbance in the market, which often leads to supply and demand changes. Partial equilibrium does not cater for shocks. What are these shocks? It could be flood, disaster, war, even power failure. Any of these things. They are shocks. They can lead to changes in the supply and demand of commodity. Now, the third one is that it is not completely reliable in studying the interactions of all parts of the economy, of course. As much as it helps to know how the education sector affects the health sector through the number of graduates or medical graduates or nursing graduates that it produces per year, or how they are well trained or so. Apart from the fact that it does not really go far in establishing the complete interaction that exists between the health sector and and the education sector, and vis-a-vis other sectors. It just sort of sometimes analyze the face value or the facial result, the most common and visible result, but the depth analysis is not covered. We're going to stop here. In the next class, we continue from general equilibrium analysis. Thank you very much. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. So that is what it means. Come to the end of this session. We are going to continue from here in the next session, where we discuss merit and limitation of partial equilibrium analysis and further into general equilibrium analysis. Thank you very much. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel for more of these videos. With this, we come to the end of this class. We are going to continue with this. We have come to the end of this class. We are going to continue from the limitations of partial equilibrium analysis in our next class. Then we can continue with general equilibrium analysis vis-a-vis its assumptions and limitations. Thank you very much.